Alright, so this is the third and final lesson video for section 3.3. Oh my gosh, it's been so long, but that's okay because I love converting. Alright, so it says, what conversion factor would you use to convert between these pairs of units? Alright, so we have minutes and hours. We all should already know that one. How many minutes are in an hour? So we would say 1 hour equals 60 minutes. Or you could say 60 minutes equals 1 hour. Remember, it doesn't matter the order. Alright, grams and milligrams. So this is where you need your SI prefixes. So remember, it's 1 prefix unit. So 1, which one has the prefix? Milligram, equals 10 to the x base unit. So if you pull out your prefixes chart, milli is 10 to the negative 3. Alright, and then that's base unit. So grams would be your base unit. Alright, for part C, we're going to do this one because this one's for honors. It says cubic centimeters to milliliters. That's one of your other conversion factors. It tells you that 1 centimeter cubed equals 1 milliliter, like that. Alright, so the next one, we're actually going to have to make the conversions. Okay, so I'm going to put up my little formula to plug into. 1 prefix unit equals 10 to the x base unit. I am not going to keep clicking back to the SI prefixes chart. Hopefully you have yours sitting in front of you. I have them memorized, so I'm just going to pull them out of my mind. Alright, to save some time. These videos are dragging on for forever. Alright, so it says we have 14.8 grams to micrograms. How many prefixes do you see? 1. Micro. Grams is a base unit. If there's 1 prefix, it's only 1 step. So 1 prefix unit. So 1 microgram, remember micro is the mu with the U with the tail, equals 10 to the x base unit. Well, if you look at your prefixes chart, micro is 10 to the negative 6, and your base unit is, of course, grams. So we start with what we know, 14.8 grams. Follow our golden rule. If grams is on top, grams goes on bottom. I look over here, it's 10 to the negative 6 grams equals 1 microgram. So grams cancel. I have micrograms, which is what I want. Since one number's on top and one's on bottom, we divide. So 14.8 divided by 10 to the negative 6, and what that gives me is 1.48 times 10 to the 7, and my unit is micrograms. Okay, so y'all, this is the section assessment, so make sure you're trying some of these on your own. Okay, don't just keep waiting on me to do them. Okay, so maybe pause the video, try them, and check your answers. I'm not doing them on the test for you, so you got to be able to do this on your own. All right, so moving on to part B. So we have kilograms to grams. So how many prefixes do you see? 1, kilo. So it's just a 1-step problem. All right, so 1 prefix unit, so I'm going to say 1 kilogram because that is my prefix, equals 10 to the x. If you look at your SI prefixes chart, kilo is 10 to the 3, and then my base unit is grams. Ooh, you love seeing 1 prefix because then it's a little bit easier. All right, so we start with what we know. So 3.72 times 10 to the negative 3 kilograms. Follow the golden rule. Kilograms is on top, so kilograms goes on bottom. So I go back over here. How many kilograms? 1. 1 kilogram is 10 to the 3 grams. So kilograms cancel. I have grams, which is what I want, so I can stop the problem. So I just multiply my 2 numbers since they're both on top. All right, once you multiply, you just get 3.72 grams. And that's it. All right, so let's move on to our bottom one. We have 66.3 liters to cubic centimeters. All right, so we're going to have to use 2 conversion factors here. So one of them we know, whenever you see cubic centimeters, I want you to think of this one. 1 centimeter cubed equals 1 milliliter. So I can get to milliliters, but it's giving me liters. Okay, so I have 1 prefix, milli, so I'm going to have to use my SI chart. Alright, so 1 prefix unit, or 1 milliliter, equals 10 to the x base unit. So if you look at milliliters, or milli, it'll tell you 10 to the negative 3, and your base unit for milliliters is liters. So for this bottom one, I'm going to have to do 2. Alright, so I start with my 66.3 liters. Golden rule says if liters is on top, liters goes on bottom. How many? 10 to the negative 3. And that equals 1 milliliter. So liters cancel. I'm left with milliliters, but that's not what I want. I want cubic centimeters, or centimeters cubed. All right, so I've already used this one, so I just continue. So milliliters is on top, so I'll put milliliters on bottom. I'll look up here, 1 milliliter equals 1 centimeter cubed. Milliliters cancel, I'm left with centimeters cubed, which is what I want, and because one number's on top and one's on bottom, I divide. So I do 66.3 divided by 10 to the negative 3. And so once I do that, I get 66,300 centimeters cubed. All right, so hopefully you're at least getting a little better at the one step. This type still might be a little tricky in the beginning. All right, so let's move on. Ooh, I'm excited that we're almost done with this section. I love it, but making these lesson videos, talking to myself at school is kind of awkward. All right, so it says an atom of gold has a mass of 3.271 times 10 to the negative 23 grams. How many atoms of gold are in 5 grams of gold? Now, have we talked anything about atoms yet? No. But the point that I'm trying to show you is as long as I give you the conversion factor, you should be able to convert anything at this point. Like, it doesn't matter if you've even heard of it or not. Okay, so let's look at how this problem works. So it says an atom of gold. So how many is an atom? 1. So 1 atom of gold has a mass of 3.271 times 10 to the negative 23 grams. So that's my conversion factor. It says how many atoms of gold are in 5 grams. So I start with my 5 grams. So golden rule says what goes on bottom? Grams does. So I'll look at my conversion factor and I'll put this big number. 3.271 times 10 to the negative 23 grams equals 1 atom. Grams cancel. I'm left with atoms, which is what I want. Since one number's on top and one's on bottom, I divide. So I'll do 5 divided by 3.271 times 10 to the negative 23. All right, and once I do that, I get 1.53 times 10 to the positive 23 atoms. So see, it doesn't matter if you've heard of the conversion factor before. If I give you a conversion factor, you should be able to convert anything at this point. All right, so let's look at a couple of more converting ones. Obviously, again, make sure you're trying some of these because I need you to know how to do these on your own. So let's put our little saying up here. So 1 prefix unit equals 10 to the x base unit. All right, so we have joules and kilojoules. So how many prefixes do you see? 1. That means it's going to be one step. Joules and kilojoules. So 1 prefix unit, so my prefix unit is kilojoules, equals 10 to the x. So if you look at your prefix chart, kilo is 10 to the 3, and my base unit is joules. All right, so we start with what we know. We know we have 7.5 times 10 to the 4 joules. So golden rule says if joules is on top, joules goes on bottom. I look over here, it's 10 to the 3 joules equals 1 kilojoule. So joules cancel, I'm left with kilojoules, which is what I want, so I know I can stop the problem. So then I just do 7.5 times 10 to the 4 divided by 10 to the 3 because it's on bottom. And once I do that, I get 75 kilojoules. All right, so maybe try the next one because it's a 2 prefix one. All right, so let's look at it together. So I have 2 prefixes, milligrams and decigrams. So how many prefixes do you see? 2. So how many steps is it going to be? 2. All right, so I'm going to start with milli first, milligrams. So 1 prefix unit, or 1 milligram, equals, if you look at your prefixes chart, milli is 10 to the negative 3. My base unit for milligrams is just grams. Remember, you just remove the prefix. All right, the other prefix that I'm looking at is deci. So 1 decigram, because that has a prefix, is 10 to the, if you look at your prefix chart, deci is 10 to the negative 1, and the base unit of decigrams is grams. Okay, so these are my 2 conversion factors. So now I'm ready to start with what I know. So I have 3.9 times 10 to the 5 milligrams. So golden rule says if milligrams is on top, milligrams goes on bottom. So I'll look over here. 1 milligram equals 10 to the negative 3 grams. So milligrams cancel, I'm left with grams, but that's not what I want. I want decigram. So I keep on going. I've used this one, by the way. All right, so grams is on top, so that means to cancel it out, I put grams on bottom, following my golden rule. So I look, grams is 10 to the negative 1, and that equals 1 decigram. So grams cancel, I'm left with decigrams, which is what I want, so I know I can stop. So how do we solve this? Well, you multiply your top two and divide by your bottom one, that 10 to the negative 1. And when you do all that, you should get 3,900 decagrams. All right, so again, pause it and try this bottom one. All right, so how many prefixes do you see? 2. Deci and micro. So how many steps is it going to be? 2. All right, so let's write our conversion factors first. So I'm going to start with deciliters. So 1 prefix unit or 1 deciliter equals 10 to the x base unit. So if you look at your prefixes chart, deci is 10 to the negative 1. The base unit of deciliter is liter. All right, but I also need to do microliters. So 1 prefix unit or 1 microliter, because of course that has a prefix, is 10 to the x base unit. So if you look at your prefix chart, micro is going to say 10 to the negative 6, and your base unit for microliters is again just the liter. All right, so we have our 2 conversion factors, so we're ready to solve. So 2.21 times 10 to the negative 4 deciliters. So golden rule says if deciliters is on top, I put it on bottom so it cancels. So I look up here, 1 deciliter is 10 to the negative 1 liters. So deciliters cancel, but since I have liters and not microliters, I know I need to keep going. All right, and I've already used this one. So golden rule says if liters is on top, liters goes on bottom. So I go up here and say, oh, 10 to the negative 6 liters equals 1 microliter. So liters cancel. I'm left with microliters, which is what I want. So I'm going to multiply my top 2 numbers and divide by that 10 to the negative 6 since it's on bottom. And so once I do that, I get 22.1 microliter. All right, whew. So you made it through section 3. Like I said, for section 3, y'all, it's about learning the process. When we get to the amazing world of stoichiometry, you're going to want to be able to do this just like that without thinking. All right, so hopefully section 3 wasn't too terrible.